I haven't played Power World in over an hour, and the withdrawals are already starting to kick in. Must get through all these fucking news articles. All right. Shocking poll exposes how much the elite hate us. I'm surprised they even had to have a poll for that. I figure that'd be common knowledge at this point. A shocking poll exposes the utter contempt the elite holds the general public in, with more than three quarters wanting to ration food and energy to combat quote unquote climate change, and a majority wanting air travel for holidays banned. But not for them. None of this is for them. None of this is ever for them. It's always for the peasants. It's always for the serfs, the menials, the filthy poors. Never the rich enlightened elite. No, never. Let's see. A survey was conducted by a committee to unleash prosperity, a Maryland-based nonprofit advocacy group. The organization polled members of America's 1%, defined as people who have postgraduate degree and an annual income of more than $150,000. Man, I wish I had that kind of money. 77% of elites who were asked to fight climate change, would you favor or oppose the strict rationing of gas, meat, and electricity? They said they would favor such policy. That figure raises even higher to 89% among Ivy League graduates, because these here are just pretentious twats. The whole lot of them. Pretentious twats. Presumably, their wealth will ensure that they are exempt from such rationing while poor people can go whistle. Yes, that's always the case. Let's see. In addition, 69, nice, percent of elites want an immediate ban on gas stoves, while 81% want gas-powered vehicles outlawed. This is kind of repeated stuff we've seen on any time a climate change quote-unquote article comes up and stuff. It's always the same shit. Majority also want government to forbid the use of air conditioning and non-essential air travel, effectively outlawing vacation rules that presumably won't apply to our private jets and luxury compounds. Yep. Yeah, yada 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 yada. Yeah, whatever. It's just more. It's just more of the same and stuff. But it's kind of funny to have this like in numbers and like in writing and stuff. It's like the powers that be hate you, as if sacrificing children to Moloch wasn't a hint enough at how shit things are. Do 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 do. Okay, there's a few gas articles floating around. I think I might have a duplicate of this one here coming later, but I'll recognize it as a duplicate when I get to it. Let's see. ExxonMobil sues activist investors to block climate petitions at shareholder meeting. Now, the long and short of this one here is that uh, a couple of activist investors think that in their minds, they think if they own a little bit of the company, they can throw their weight around. They really can't. Unless you're on the board of directors, which is like, big dick levels of stock ownership in the company. Like, from my understanding, these are like a couple of hippie junior investors that are like, okay, it's like, we want you to stop making money by drilling and selling that filthy oil, that disgusting climate destroying oil. And of course, the laws that be are like, no, these are publicly traded companies, and as part of being on the board of directors, he's like, you are required by law to work in the best interest of the shareholders. That is to say, make money, not kill the company, which results in the stock value going down to zero. No, that's not how it works. And the board of directors, like the major shareholders, are having none of this shit, and it's fucking hilarious. Let's see. ExxonMobil suing two activist investors group in a Texas district court, aiming to block their climate proposals from going to a vote in the annual shareholder meeting later this year, in the first such direct complaint to court instead of the SEC. And the Security Exchange Commission is a joke these days, and I'm not surprised that these guys are just going straight to the courts and saying, like, look, this is fucking bullshit. Yada 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 filed a proposal for Exxon's shareholders to vote on the annual general meeting on May 29th to have Exxon commit to further emissions reductions, including Scope 3 emissions from the product it sells. and there's a lot of other stuff going on here too. It's just like, oh, we need to reach these kind of emissions and pivot to like green energy stuff and blah blah blah. And I don't know, the fact that the major shareholders are taking these chuckle fucks to court and saying like, look, listen here, you dumb shits, this is how things work, and I just find it utterly hilarious. This is like the most pertinent part. Exxon is seeking for the first time a judgment from the court to exclude a proposal for an upcoming shareholders vote. Previously, the supermajor and other publicly traded firms have sought SEC advice on the merits of proposals to be included in the proxy statements of the shareholder meeting, which is a long way of saying, uh, like let's just slide in the tip, just a tip of certain little pet projects and stuff. And in this case, it's the climate death cult people trying to slide in the tip of the okay, let's kill this evil, let's kill this great evil that is ExxonMobil from the inside by owning stock and trying to throw our weight around at the annual shareholder meeting. It's like it's so fucking juvenile. I swear to God. Yeah, that's about it. Do, 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 do. Politicians perpetuating power is the path to West's destruction. This is another one of those essay type ones, but they're usually a good read. And let's see, Malay exposes the path of destruction for the West. Blah blah blah. Growing interventionism and the advancement of socialism. Blah blah blah. It's kind of like the pushback. I've been saying this for a while. The pushback has long since begun, and it's going to get really crazy this year. And the powers that be know it, and they're kind of taking out all the stops because they know they're going to get absolutely reamed by the overwhelming majority that is normal people. It's a numbers game. Like it's always kind of funny how communists are always like it's like, oh, we represent the overwhelming majority, we are the dominant force. It's like, nope, no you're not, you are champagne socialists. You think you are going to be ruling the pearls and stuff. That's not how it works. You are a useful idiot who is going to be lined up against the wall and shot once you serve your purpose. Yeah, it's kind of summing up Millet's speech at the World Economic Forum. I really need to watch his speech. I heard it was a good one. Yeah, this is overall just a summary of Millet's speech. So I either watch the speech or give this a read. It's worthwhile, but it's mostly stuff we've covered before, and you know, ever since the inflection point that is 2016, this has kind of just gotten the hyper speed, and we've lived it. Okay, there's gonna be a couple of these ones since it's like over a week's worth of stuff to go through. Let's see. Supreme Roberts Barrett joined Libs in allowing Biden to remove Texas border wire. Uh, there's going to be a funny sequel to this here article in a little while and stuff. But at the time, the Supreme Court ruled that like, yeah, we're the feds. We own you, you silly little independent state of Texas. Like we own you. It's like, so you don't, it's like, it's not your border, it's our border. And we supersede you, and we're going to tell you how to do things, such as we're going to cut down that barbed wire fence you put up. It's like, ha. Yeah, it's just going over the details of the little spat between Texas and Washington and stuff. And We're going to come back to this in a little bit. In a little bit. Airbus A330 flight canceled after passenger spots four missing fasteners on wing. So okay, I love how I love how all these articles of how shit the airline industry is coming out at once, but it's largely I've had this problem with people asking me for geology related questions like volcanoes and earthquakes. It's not that there's more of them suddenly for no apparent reason, is that they're being more reported on. And it's an artifact in and of the more reporting. Is not that things are increasing, is that you're hearing about it more. And these are not the same thing. And in this case, it's just like, oh, all this airline stuff is going on all at once. It's like, no, it's always been going on. You're just hearing about it and stuff. But again, I find it funny because it's it's the result of all this, you know, SED, DEI, like all the socialism crap that's happened with business over the last decade or so and stuff. And finally, the chickens are coming home to roost and stuff with quality control and quality assurance, in that there is none. So yeah, so uh, looks like, yeah, it was bound to New York, and a buddy on the plane saw like, hey, there's a few things missing on the wing, and it's like brought it to the flight attendant's attention, and then it got checked out, and it's like, yeah, this is bad. It shouldn't fly and stuff, and that's kind of a scary thing to see, and it's just like this shit is just gonna keep on getting worse until people die, and I'm sure to God people already have. Well, we're gonna swing back, much like a lot of these earlier articles in the week. We're gonna be swing back to them because there's more shit. Uh, okay, this one's infuriating. Harvard teaching hospital to retract papers as falsified data scandal unfolds. And we kind of touched on this one a while back. Weeks after Harvard President Claudine Gay resigned amid plagiarism scandal, the university's teaching hospital is set to retract or correct dozens, I'm sure it's more than dozens, of papers authored by four of their top researchers following claims of data falsification. Goodness gracious, it's almost like it's a bunch of bullshit and there are narratives that are trying to be sold. And when the data doesn't match what they want for an like their desired outcome and stuff, then they start massaging the data so until it works. Funny how it is. Six papers have already been selected for retraction, and 31 others are in the process of being corrected by the Dana Farber Cancer Institute in Boston, according to Harvard Crimson, citing the hospital's research integrity officer, Dr. Barrett Rollins. Ugh, it's got to be a bad job these days. Oof. The corrections come amid claims of data manipulation against the DFCI President and CEO Larry H. Glimcher, 72 Executive President and COO William Han, C. Han, A7, Senior Vice President for Experimental Medicine Irene Gorbel, fuck, all these people. And in the statement, Rollins wrote that David contacted the DFCI allegations of data manipulation in 57 manuscripts, according to Rollins. 38 were articles which the DFCI researchers have primary responsibility for potential data errors. Four of the researchers at the Dana Farber Center have faculty appointments with the Harvard Medical School. This is not really small shit. Like, I know I will continue to the end of my days make fun of the Ivy League elite twats and stuff, and because of shit like this, in that it's all a sham, and there is absolutely no value in any of like the prestige of higher education has long since died. It died a long time ago, And now the flailing corpse is kind of like Weekend at Bernie's ing right now as far as momentum goes for people. It's like, oh, like get higher education, and it's like, oh, respectful thing, places like Harvard, and it's like, yeah, and then shit like this comes out. You see, the data manipulation claims came to light after investigator Shoto David published a blog post several weeks ago alleging irregularities among 57 papers. He previously alleged data forgery, which includes discrepancies in images consisting of duplication in blots, bands, and plots, according to a report. David, who holds a doctoral degree in biology at Newcastle University, alleged that 3 papers authored by Glimcher, 12 by Hahn, and 10 by Gorbel, and 16 by Anderson contain data forgery, including 5 co authored, both by Anderson and Gorbel. As the typical for scientific research, all of the papers referenced by David have several co authors, though his post focuses on the 4 DFCI researchers. And going over the examples of like duplicates. Papers published between 1999 and 2017 most commonly have duplications of blots, bands, and plots within the images, David alleged. In the Saturday interview, David said he used the combination of artificial intelligence, image analysis software, image twin, and manual detection to look for errors in papers, and reports the Harvard Crimson. In short, AI is going to absolutely wreck a lot of ivory tower copycats. Yeah, that's kind of like the main point I kind of really chuckled about this year. Is like, okay, the machine learning AI shit is gonna. This is kind of like the shit that's really built for and stuff. Like having a machine like look at raw data and stuff, even simple shit of just like, all right, are these the same images? Yes or no? And shit like that only improves with time. And a lot of these quote unquote they think they're clever and they're going to get away with shit, and it's just going to get worse from here on out for them. And I find that hilarious. The globalist new weapon. On the heels of Davos World Economic Forum Week, the mainstream media historical propaganda push from the globalists regarding disease X is in full swing. So, their plan to control the world by having scared people, like the 2020 corona thing and stuff, in the end, fell flat on his face, thankfully. But for some godforsaken reason, they want to try it again. And it goes back to the first article of how, the level of contempt the powers that be have for the lesser people and stuff. And they think that you and I are that stupid that we will not trust our lying eyes and lying ears, and that they'll try to shit again, verbatim, and it'll suddenly work this time. Where have I heard that shit before? It's almost like there's a certain end goal. And these people will try again and again, and every time it won't be real. That wasn't real. This time will be my version will be totally real. But I digress. Uh, I just love this acronym of corporate mockingbird media. I love it. Next pandemic already on the way. Experts warn of disease X could kill 50 million people. Medical experts developing vaccine for disease X, which could be 20 times more infectious than COVID. World leaders gathering over chilling disease X. Threat amid fears a hypothetical outbreak could kill 20x more. Global leaders plan for disease X next pandemic, and blah, 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 blah. Now, at the end of the day, what this disease X is a hypothetical disease, and this was by the World Health Organization chucklefuck guy. He said, like, he made a statement to the effect of, like, we must prepare for disease X, like the next thing, the next big thing. We have to prepare for it because it's going to be really bad. Trust me. It's like kind of shit. And for whatever reason, they're kind of running with that. Even giving it the best light, looking at it in the best light, it is just a thought experiment, a hypothetical. but they're going balls deep as if it's like a real thing happening right now. Oh my God, we're all going to die. I don't get it. Like the powers that be think we're that stupid, but it's actually the inverse. Is that they live in their own bubble and they huff their own farts. And it is them that are, in fact, utterly retarded. The meeting will address new warnings from the World Health Organization that the unidentified disease could kill 20 more times people, blah, blah, blah. We have seen this playbook before, yes. World Economic Forum last second COVID-19 knowledge gatekeeping, yada. That's it. Yeah. Okay, I like this line. The rapid, open, and transparent sharing of data on this outbreak is now being threatened by rumors and misinformation around its origins. We stand together to strongly condemn conspiracy theories suggesting that COVID-19 does not have a natural origin. It's like, funny how that ended up. Yeah. Furthermore, scientific journals use what is called gatekeeping to withhold information. This is why I have to go on a little tangent here. Being in science since like ever and stuff, I've always hated the fact that there is literally a cartel. There is a cartel when it comes to scientific knowledge. It's all paywalled. It's all fairy dust fugazi as far as I'm concerned. Because if it's paywalled and you have to go through a bunch of hoops, not even just paying, you have to be like, there's some of these articles and stuff, you have to be like part of the in group, and it's like all it's so fucking retarded, and it's just like, okay, the fact you're hiding all this shit and stuff and it's not open to wide scrutiny immediately puts you on my shit list. And it's like, oh, I'm published in a respected scientific journal. Can I read it? No? Okay. It doesn't mean anything. It does not exist. And fuck you. The data shows that the World Economic Forum is part of the macro environments that shape editorial gatekeeping. There is a playing field bias towards their system, and only ideas that promote their system will have a chance to be heard. Yeah, this is very much what I was getting at. And lab leak hypothesis of silence. What is the article of the 27 authors may have likely aimed to ensure? It's like these quote unquote scientists were this is the thing that kind of gets me and stuff, is that these quote unquote scientists, and I'm saying this as a scientist, were are were and are and will be the useful idiots in this equation, and that blows my mind. But I remember reading an article a little while back to the effect of this shit, like, okay, like I do remember now, it was the article of like, okay, the whole Nazis race war, like a World War II shit, didn't come out of nowhere. It actually came out of academia of all places. And it's things like that and things like this, it kind of just make me go like, wow, we're all fucking retarded monkeys, every last one of us. Some of us will admit it. And every level except chromosomal, I am in fact retarded. I wouldn't have it any other way, because goddamn. Yeah, I do like this line. This is the face of the enemy. Do not trust any of these lab coat wearing chuckle fucks. Don't trust any of them. They all have an agenda, and it's all out to get you. It's all it ever was, and it's all it will ever be. They now have the control of the buttons for mainstream media, the fact checkers, academic institutions, publishers of scientific journals, and heads of state. Lists of who they own or have bought off are almost endless. The fight is in front of us is vast. Now is not the time to give up. I agree. I agree. Do, 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 do. Oh, whiskey. Whiskey, whiskey, whiskey. I can't make fun of your government specifically because mine is even more retarded and stuff. Dutch Queen promotes global digital ID at Davos. Queen Maxima of the Netherlands took to the Davos stage to declare digital IDs are necessary for nearly every aspect of social engagement. Uh, and yeah, like here's the here's all you need to know. Herr Schwab, front and center. It's like it's like the Nazi leader himself, right there. Oh God. Dutch Queen told the World Economic Forum that they no longer trust the people and digital IDs will provide governments with a clear way to track our behavior. Yes, that's all it ever was about. Control. Fuck these Satanists. Because, goddamn, at the end of the day, that's what they are. Vaccine passports are necessary to tell who actually got vaccinated or not. Highlights how those at the top do not trust the public. They want complete unilateral control. Again, this comes back to the first article of how the elites are in utter contempt of everyone who's not them. In fact, she believes that the children should not be allowed to enroll in school unless they have digital ID that includes their vaccination passport. This is fucked up. I mean, it's fucked up in general, but it's like, okay, you're going for the kids now too. It's like you want them to be born and indoctrinated with a barcode on their neck. Fuck you. When open bank account, you must present digital ID. You want to do anything? Digital ID. Want to have meat in hand gaming? You need your digital ID. Now the Netherlands implemented a COVID certificate that was required for travel throughout the EU. Canada did this too. Citizens were provided it a yellow vaccination booklet that was required to carry throughout the pandemic. So you had like it was literally like I've seen these things. They were literal passports. It was fucked up. Mass protests erupted, but the government did not drop restrictions until 72% was already injected. Over 40% of restaurants said they would not ask patrons to show vaccination to enter. Based. Prime Minister Mark Rutte immediately fired Deputy Economic Affairs Minister Mona Kaiser for questioning the vaccine passport. That kind of tells you everything that you need to know, really. Dissent is no longer tolerated. The power they tasted during lockdown opened Pandora's box. I agree. They got, but here's the thing: it failed, and they want it back, and they're gonna go for anything, either like climate death cult or disease X or whatever the fuck. Fuck, they can have straight up Captain Trips come out. I don't care. If the world, here's the thing: when I'm not gonna say if, when the world burns, they're gonna burn along with it. Their stacks of money is not gonna help them. It's like all their doomsday bunkers and stuff. The supplies won't last forever. What are you gonna do? Support all the families of like your maids and farmers and shit? Yeah, that's not gonna happen because they're just gonna kill you and take all your shit. And you can add the Dutch Queen on top of that list too. Oh God, this cunt. Radical UK trans lobbyist, that's a redundant statement, demands schools stop calling people's boys and girls. I am at a loss for words. An extreme trans lobbyist group is pressuring schools in the UK to stop calling people's boys and girls and use the pronouns they instead of he, she in an effort to remove any unnecessary gender language from the classroom. Daily Mail reports that the radical Alphabet Soup Stonewall charity is asking hundreds of schools and nurseries where children as young as 2 to change their policies to sign up for his champion scheme. The group also wants to see gender neutral bathrooms installed and have boys and girls wear the exact same uniforms. The report also notes that children are offered rewards if they comply with not using gendered language in school. This shit is vile. They should all. These chuckle fucks, every single last one of them, should suffer the same fate as the pedophiles. Feet first, into the wood chipper. Slowly. Leave the kids alone. I don't. It's like, do I have to pull up the song? Hey, teacher, leave those kids alone. Incredibly, a charity scheme costs every school £100. And in order to achieve Stonewall Gold status, they have to inject alphabet soup propaganda into teaching, including writing trans inclusionary policy, adapting school journey policy to be alphabet soup inclusive, and collating alphabet soup inclusive lessons from across the curriculum. I need an antacid because I'm ready to have a conniption. Pass the AC, save me. Uh, is it time for the government to draw up a blacklist of organizations that ignore these Education Act provisions and who therefore should not be used by our schools? Fletcher added. Stephanie Davies. I hate these. I hate hyphen names. I'm sorry. I just hate hyphen names so much. Of campaign group Transgender Trend knows Stonewall has cynically used their credibility as once highly respected organization to become peddlers of extremist ideology, and they have deliberately set out to target children from the start. Yes, that's how groomers work. Early and often. Transgender Trend also revealed that trans lobbyists are urging activist teachers to ignore government guidance published last month that essentially says schools do not have to adopt gender identity ideology or recognize social transitions among pupils. Goodness gracious, common sense prevails. For a time. The lobbyist groups are holding events and asking teachers to attend, essentially get their marching orders for how to inject radical alphabet soup ideas into state funded schools. An undercover therapist at one event commented it felt like a cult meeting. Yes, because that's exactly what it is. Duh. Fuck these people. This. I had fun reading this one. CDC labeled accurate articles as misinformation. Documents show. The top U.S. public health agency labeled multiple news articles as misinformation, even though the articles were accurate, according to internal emails and experts. Yes. So it's shit like, it's like, oh, don't take that horse medicine, even though it'll save your life. Yeah, funny that. Yeah, since this article is from the Epoch, I like the Epoch Times. Like I know Zero Hedge posts a lot of their articles and stuff, but the Epoch Times is kind of in the same boat as Zero Hedge in that they will get blocked and called out as right wing, blah 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 and stuff. But when the Epoch Times, much like Zero Hedge, is proven to be right, and unironically on the right side of history and stuff, they are vindicative assholes, and I fucking love it. The U.S. Center for Disease Control and Prevention added the misinformation labels to articles from the Epoch Times and widely circulated internal messages, according to copies obtained by the Epoch Times. One of the articles reported on a peer review paper found heart inflammation or myocarditis was more common after COVID 19 vaccination than after COVID 19 infection. Nordic researchers reviewed electronic health records and counted 109 cases of myocarditis following COVID 19 infection compared to 530 after vaccination. Their study was published in the British Medical Journal. An internal CDC email said the study had been picked up by the anti vax proponents as evidence that the vax was more likely to cause myocarditis than COVID 19 infection. and provide a hyperlink to the Epoch Times article. The Feb 7th, 23 email listed the article under points of confusion, potential rumors, misinformation. The CDC did not list any data or other information supporting its label. Oh, God. Reflux. Why? Kershey has her pterodactyl hiccups. I just have straight up pain. Ugh. The Epoch Times article should not be labeled as misinformation. Dr. Tracy Hoig? I've seen that name before. It always bugs me every time I can never pronounce it. A physician scientist at the University of California, San Francisco told the Epoch Times via email. Dr. Hogan, the NORC study aligned with earlier research, including a paper published by JAMA Cardiology that found myocarditis rates were higher among some populations after vaccination compared to after infection. Another CDC email claimed story reporting on how the U.S. government was receiving royalty payments from Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine was inaccurate or misleading. It doesn't matter. Someone along the line was getting kickbacks. You know it. I know it. We all know it. It was all one giant scam. A multi-layered scam at that. Anti-vax proponents question Moderna's new patent agreement with NIH, citing catch-up payments and royalties as a conflict of interest. Because it fucking is. Duh. It's certainly interesting that confronting the possible ethics concerns, the CDC doesn't address them, but dismisses them as misinformation. Michael Chamberlain, director of nonprofit Protect Public Trust, told the Epoch Times via email. The agency is quick to slap derogatory label on any statements that doesn't fit preferred narrative, and just as quick to impugn the motives of anyone who dares, you dare, make those statements. This is not government working for the people. This is government as adversary to the people. And this is going to come to a head very shortly. And believe you me, 2024 is going to be wild. More on emails. The emails were circulated to more 150 people in the CDC and HHS. They were sent by Emily Matthews, a contractor acting on behalf of the CDC's research and evaluation team. Blah 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 blah. Yeah, long story short, like they were all in collusion. They were colluding. You might say a conspiracy, as defined as two people trying to screw over a third one. This is literally a conspiracy to screw over us. And the documents come out, and to surprise no one. Many such cases. Click the right link, damn you. Okay, there's going to be a couple more after this one, tier two. So the next part of the line was Texas will not back down. Governor Abbott slams Supreme Court order, reportedly installs more razor wire. Texas Governor Greg Abbott hit back against the Supreme Court's Monday ruling, allowing Biden's Border Patrol to cut razor wire that the state had installed along the U.S.-Mexico border. I just realized they misspelled border, but then again, I expect this from Zero Hedge team. I don't trust an article from them unless there's like a minimum of 3 typos. Is what I've come to expect and desire. Because they are number nerds, not the English. Cut razor wire, install border while broader lawsuits over the wire play out. God. The Texas National Guard continues to hold the line in the Eagle Pass. Abbott posted next Tuesday morning, adding Texas will not back down from our efforts to secure border in Biden's absence. Texas razor wire is an effective deterrent to illegal crossings. Biden encourages, I will continue to defend Texas' constitutional authority to secure the border and prevent the Biden administration from destroying our property, Abbott said in a initial response on Monday after Supreme Court granted an emergency appeal from the Biden administration. In response to the ruling, Texas is reportedly installing more wire. Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton also chimed in Monday's ruling. Excuse me. The Supreme Court's temporary order allows Biden to continue his illegal effort to aid foreign invasion of America. He said in a statement, the destruction of Texas border barriers will not help enforce the law or keep American citizens safe. The fight is not over, and I look forward to defending our state's sovereignty. According to the Biden Department of Homeland Security, the razor wire impacts the Border Patrol agents' ability to help migrants in need and complicates the apprehension of migrants. Representative Clay Higgins also slammed the Supreme Court, writing an axe the feds are staging a civil war and Texas should stand their ground. Yeah, we're going to come back to that. In early 2020, a Chinese source trusted by FBI said COVID leaked from Wuhan lab, sources say. In other news, water is wet, but let's continue. The FBI's entire 25-person Chinese intelligence squad knew of reliable human intelligence the SARS-CoV-2 COVID leaked from a lab. Duh. A person working at the Virology Institute lab in Wuhan, China, was infected, left the building, and spread the virus outside the lab in Wuhan. It didn't have anything to do with the wet market or bad soup story they were going with. The CHS was from Wuhan, had been vetted, and the guy was from Wuhan and vetted, and the person had provided information on 3 prior occasions where they were able to corroborate as true and reliable. Another source said the FBI had considered the information good intel. 2 sources say the CIA may have conflicted in investigating its origin because it didn't want to compromise investigations of the Wuhan lab that predate the COVID-19. So, like we all knew the shit was fucked long before the lab leak happened, because other lab leaks had happened and stuff, and that was just the big one. Yeah, but it's kind of like a deer in the headlights kind of thing. It's like, oh, we don't want to interrupt some of our other investigations. It's like, buddy, that horse left the barn already. Okay, pack it up. You're done. It's over. Go home. There was a clear lack of interest and robust analysis of Chinese military connections to the Wuhan virology lab. Research connections between China's Here's the thing: everything that's important in China is related to the military. That's just the way it is. In civilian, there is no such thing as civilian research in China. It's all military. And connections that could be drawn between U.S. research and WIV activity, the whistleblower said. Former Director of National Intelligence John Ratcliffe suggested there could be additional reasons behind the CIA's lack of disclosure about COVID's origins. Because they had a part of it, probably. Fuck the CIA, fuck the FBI, fuck them all. Okay, this one here gave me a chuckle. Toyota chairman says electric cars will never dominate global market. I agree. Toyota's chairman and former CEO, Akio Toyoda, is at it again, providing the public with a dose reality that electric vehicles will never dominate the global car market. Toyota, grandson and founder of the world's largest car manufacturer, expressed at a business event this month, as reported by Telegraph, that EVs will never capture a 30% global market share. Excuse me. He explained the petrol burning vehicles and hybrids, along with hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, will dominate. I agree. Toyota made a point: how can EVs be the future when a billion people on Earth have no electricity? That's a good question. Next question. Data from Statistica shows nearly a billion people in the world are living without electricity. The noted customers, not regulations or politics, should make that decision. I agree. Over the years, Toyota has openly demonstrated defiance against governments and NGOs pushing for 100% EV in just a few decades, if not earlier. In October, Toyota told reporters at an auto show in Japan that EVs aren't the silver bullet against the supposed ills of carbon emissions that are often made out to be. Dude, spitting hard facts. Respect. Toyota has a history of being at the forefront of adopting new technologies. However, its slow EV adoption is because of its mistrust in lithium ion batteries and its position itself as leader of hybrid vehicles. Perhaps Toyota has been vindicated to some extent as EV demand slumps. In recent days, Ford announced slash production of electric F 150 Lightning in April to achieve optimal balance of production, sales growth, and profitability. For those who purchased EVs during the COVID mania, the average price of used Tesla has collapsed. And that goes for all cars, so that's not really that big of a talking point because the instant you drive any car off the lot, it immediately drops in value. That's just the way it is. Yeah, just more numbers and stuff. So yeah, like I've been following Toyota here, this fellow for a while and stuff over the years, and he's always been a treat anytime he creeps up in the news because he does not give a fuck. He really does not give a fuck. He calls it how it is, and he does not give a shit. God bless the Japanese in certain regards. Okay, back to Clown World retardation. California landscapers brace for gas-powered lawn equipment ban. Going over a case study of a guy who had a small crew, and then the bands come in, and he had to let go a couple of his crew because he couldn't afford them with the new restrictions on gas powered equipment. So funny how it is like from the powers on high, how it hurts the little guy, even though they quote unquote champion the little guy. Funny how that works. I actually scaled down my crew. Montgomery told me it used to be four of us, and then I scaled it down to two because I had to try to make up the cost of being able to get the equipment. That is to say, like all electric equipment as opposed to gas powered equipment. So curb redundancy. So that's usually the first go to whenever a company, doesn't matter how small it is, has to tighten its belt. The people got to go because that's the big expenditure. Again, this is all just California being California shit and stuff. But it's looking at places like California, New York, Britain, Canada. It's usually these places are like the metric of like the insanity of the powers that be in clown world in general and stuff. And like, oh, we're not gonna come for your gas stoves. Oh, we're gonna come for your gas stoves. Oh, we're not gonna come for your like lawnmower, gas powered lawnmowers. It's like, oh yeah, we're gonna come for your gas powered lawnmowers. It's all so stupid and it's all so tiring. I served my time cutting grass in high school. I feel them. Okay, in better late than never news, Trudeau's Orwellian attack on Canadian truckers declared unconstitutional. Fucking finally, no fucking shit. Canada's federal court ruled on Tuesday that Prime Minister Castro Jr.'s use of the Emergencies Act in 2022 to punish protesting truckers was both unreasonable and unconstitutional. Duh. I have concluded the decision to issue the proclamation does not bear the hallmarks of reasonableness, justification, transparency, and intelligibility, and was not justified in relation to the relevant factual and legal constraints that were required to be taken into consideration, wrote Justice Richard G. Mosley in his ruling. The decision follows an application for judicial review requested by the Canadian Constitution Foundation, the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, and various other applicants who cried foul over the use of the emergency measures to quell the Freedom Convoy protests in Ottawa, which allowed the government to freeze bank accounts of protesters, conscript tow truck drivers, and arrest people for participating in assemblies deemed illegal by Trudeau's government. According to Mosley, Trudeau's regulations have violated charter rights. You read the Emergencies Act, that's the whole point of the fucking thing, which is why it shouldn't exist. Particularly against the freedom of thought, opinion, and expression, the Emergencies Act order was also found to infringe our right to security against unreasonable search and seizure, and blah, blah, blah. So, a little backstory in the trucker protest and Canadian law and stuff. We have this thing called the Emergency Act, and it's pretty much the martial law. It's the act that allows the Canadian government to declare martial law, and they can do it for whatever reason. And the big one back in the day was the Quebec separatist protests slash the native rabble rousing back in the day and stuff. That was like the first real big use of it and stuff. And then the convoy protest was the next one and stuff. And the fact that it's on the books, it's disheartening. It's like like the United States gets all the press and stuff as it is and stuff for like, oh, they're gonna crack down and all this stuff. Like, but Canada already has the shit, and it already has happened, and it will happen again because it's on the books. And if you actually look at the powers that the Canadian Prime Minister actually does have, it is retarded. It's like, you think the American president is a be all end all? No, you got to look at the Canadian Prime Minister for what he's allowed to do. It's fucking wild. Speaking of frogs, 7 in 10 French citizens opposed to solving demographic decline with immigration. At a time when France is experiencing a spectacular demographic decline, an overwhelmingly majority of French citizens are not in favor of using immigration as a lever to boost the birth rate. Recent polling showed. Excuse me. According to a CSA survey conducted for CNews Europe 1 and Le Journal du Dimanche, 69 nice percent of respondents rejected using replacement through immigration as a means of injecting fresh blood into French economy. Upon further analysis, women 71% were slightly more opposed to mass immigration than men. I wonder fucking why. And while every age group rejected the idea, elderly respondents were more firmly opposed. A total of, it's just going all the percentage breakdowns. You can read it if you want. I just like the result. Like I said, the pushback has started, and it's going to be monumental, and I'm all for it. Do, 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 do. Oh god. Turkey approves Sweden's ascension to NATO after 20-month delay. After nearly 2 years of delays, Turkey's parliament finally agreed to ratify Sweden's NATO membership a bit on Tuesday, clearing the biggest remaining hurdle, expanding the Western military alliance following Ukrainian war. Turkey's General Assembly, where President Erdogan's ruling alliance holds majority, voted 287 to 55 to approve the application that Sweden first made in 2022 to boost the security in response to the fear that Russia would invade it. When in reality, Russia invaded Ukraine in response to encroaching NATO expansion is now taking place. I agree. When Sweden and Finland asked to join in 2022, Turkey raised objections over what it said the two countries protection of groups it deems terrorists, effectively vetoing the process as all NATO members need to approve applications from countries seeking to join the alliance. Turkey endorsed Finland's membership last April, but along with Hungary, kept Sweden waiting. We support NATO enlargement to improve the alliance's deterrence efforts. We hope Finland and Sweden's attitudes towards fighting terrorism sets an example for our allies. Head of Parliament's Foreign Affairs Commission and ruling AK party member said during the debate. Blah, 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 blah. Waffling. In recent months, Turkey's delays had frustrated Western allies and enabled it to extract some concessions. Ankara had urged Stockholm to toughen the stance on local members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party, which the European Union and the United States also deem a terrorist group. In response, Stockholm introduced a new anti-terrorism bill that makes being a member of a terrorist organization illegal. That's so fucking stupid. Sweden, Finland, Canada, and the Netherlands also took steps to relax policies on iron exports to Turkey. Cox. In Parliament, Augie said Erdogan's AK party endorsed Sweden's NATO bid, and after its positive steps fighting terrorism, the AKP nationalist allies MHP and main opposition CHP, some APs, also endorsed Sweden's bid. Opposition nationalist, Islamic, and leftist parties rejected it, while 4 MPs abstained. Blah blah blah. See how things goes, but I'm still waiting for the day that NATO pulls head off its ass and fucking kicks Turkey out, because Turkey's been the problem since day one. But in the end of the day, I still say that NATO should have died along with the Warsaw Pact in 1991. Back to this shit. Europe's top border guard calls for open borders. Yep. This is very emblematic of Clown World. War is peace. Slavery is freedom. Hate is love. The new leader of Frontex, the European Union agency tasked with securing borders, has called for open borders and vowed to appease left-wing pro-mass migration activists. Well, this is awkward. Hans Lichens, Hans, fucking Hans, who is set to take a role from March 1st, gave a press conference in which he asserted that Frontex border guards will not take place in any pushback of illegal immigrants. In a separate interview, Weltamstunk, Lichens also expressed the view that it should be complete anathema to the head of a border agency. Nothing can stop people from crossing the border and advocates for more openness towards migrants. Fuck this guy. Crossing by no offense, no river, said Lichens was a bizarre statement giving it says one job. Yeah, you have one job. One job. You haven't even started as one job. You're tripping out of the gate. The Frontex chief is essentially admitting that his role is to oversee the total elimination of European borders while pretending to secure them. The phrase, the purpose of a system is what it does, has never been more apt. I agree. Hans also extended an olive branch to human rights organizations and NGOs that have been complicit in pushing open borders, in some cases work hand in hand with criminal people smugglers. I covered this long before, many times at this point, of like these NGOs are all in bed with each other, and their end result is to destabilize. And the new head promised more transparency. Said he was not the type of director who will build a fence around Frontex. So I want to open the doors, indicating he would listen to any concerns highlighted by left-wing activists about Frontex operations, as we and Paul Watson mugs the camera as he does. Blah. Oh god. Mm. Uh this one gave me a chuckle. Seven-figure hole Democratic Socialists of America in financial crisis can't afford to hire capable comrades. Oh god, this article made my week. A Marxist caucus of the country's largest socialist organization, the Democratic Socialists of America, accused top leaders of having mismanaged funds, leaving the organization in a dire financial crisis and facing layoffs. Ah! 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 Get fucked, commies. Oh shit. The story is old as time. The left wing group, which counts squad members uh, Alexander Ocasio Cortez, Rashida Tlaib, and among its ranks, facing a big deficit and a lot of talk of what to cut, according to a trio of members of Bread and Roses, the National Caucus of the Marxist organizers within the DSA. The social organization, which played a major role in pushing the Green New Deal into the highest reaches of the Democratic Party, is in a seven-figure hole, which is probably too big to fundraise our way out of it, the three socialist activists lament on January 18 posts on the call, a publication of the Bread and Roses Caucus. The trio complained about the financial crisis of some members of the DSA National Political Committee described the situation as proposal to cut staff come at a particularly bad time. They believe the opportunity is ripe to foist socialism on American people due to the revival of labor struggles and the Biden administration's support for Israel in its war against the Hamas terrorist group. Ideally, the organization would be scaling up our operations to meet this moment, hiring fellow capable comrades. Who are excited to be paid to spend every working day thinking about how to get us closer to socialism. Instead, the DSA is treading water deep in financial hole because top directors mismanage their dues. Oh shit. As a result, we are now left holding a bag tax for cutting expenses just to keep the organization afloat. The trio said, adding the DSA needs to come up with $2 million to break even. Part of the plan put forward by some members of the DSA political committee is to cut $500,000 from staff-related expenses and ask volunteers from both director level and bargaining unit staff to have their position cut. If necessary, we will then explore initiating layoffs, they added. The DSA has not immediately responded to requests for comment. Some commentators online pointed out the DSA supported the celebration of Hamas October 7 massacre of Israeli civilians, and they argued they deserve to be defunded. I agree. But they should be defunded because they're fucking communists and not because they supported Palestinian terrorists. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, yeah. So when the Israel Palestinian thing kicked off, it was kind of funny because the All Out for Palestine rally took place in October 8 in Times Square and was promoted by the New York DSA chapter on X, formerly known as Twitter, although the post has since been deleted, of course. The DSA's New York city chapter has since apologized for promoting the rally, writing an October 10th statement that believes in peace, equality, and freedom for all Palestinian and Israeli while unequivocally condemning all hatred and killing of all civilians. On Saturday, the anticipation for escalatory violence to come, we tweeted promotion of rally in solidarity with the people of Palestine. We understand why many, including our allies, were shocked by the timing and tone of this message in a moment of profound fear and grief. We are sorry for the confusion our post caused for not making our values explicit, the group wrote. Fuck you, you got caught. Fuck these people. I can't even call them people, they're communists. Coming back to the NATO Sweden thing. In U-turn, Orban backs Sweden's NATO bid after overplaying hand with exasperated allies. I reaffirm that the Hungarian government supports the NATO membership of Sweden. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban says he assured the NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg on a phone call Wednesday. Stoltenberg responded with his own announcement of the good phone call, confirming that Orban clearly supports Sweden's NATO membership. I look forward to the ratification as soon as Parliament reconvenes. Stoltenberg said on X he is being hailed as a major and significant U-turn as Orban said he'll now urge Parliament to back Sweden's NATO bid. The day prior, following nearly 2 years of delays, Turkey's parliament finally ratified Sweden's NATO membership bid, clearing the biggest remaining hurdle, expanding Western military alliance following the Ukraine war. But Orban also did something unexpected, which yet again exasperated allies. On Tuesday, he issued a last-minute invitation for Swedish Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson to come to Hungary to talk for NATO accession process, which is widely being viewed as an attempt at saving face and hang on to what dwindled leverage he has left. One senior European diplomat has summarized the surprise and anger among allies in describing Orban offered negotiation while Hungary never raised objections during the accession talks as outrageous. Another European diplomat was cited in The Guardian saying the recent moves sent shockwaves throughout the alliance. A great dose of disappointment is there. After all, they had all the time in the world to consult with Sweden before. Funny how that works. Hungary has been under consistent and growing pressure to ratify, perhaps even more so than Turkey. Lately, it was the UK and Germany piling on the pressure, just as Turkey announced that Tuesday. German Foreign Office drew down the gauntlet for Budapest in the very public ground. Turkey's parliament have taken important steps today, paving the way for Sweden's accession to NATO. Sweden will make NATO stronger. The statement posted on X said, "Now it's high time for Hungary to conclude the remaining steps so that we can welcome our Swedish friends into the alliance." That's called slapping your dick on the table. I fucking love it. uh, Bloomberg has observed Wednesday that Orban is essentially folding after overplaying his hand. This is definitely a sharp turn and one that aims to prepare Hungary's ratification for Sweden bid. Orban's suggestion in a post on X that he wanted to negotiate Sweden's accession was cold shouldered by Stockholm Foreign Minister Tobias Billström, speaking to reporters on Tuesday, said there was no reason to negotiate with Budapest. Oh, snap. Someone's feeling salty. Inviting Sweden's premier now unprompted is a sign Orban is looking way out of mind. The Swedish premier needs to just come here and have a meeting to open way to Hungary's ratification. The political analysis Raz said if he doesn't, that's risk he's taking. Yeah, sure, buddy. A number of additional and controversial moves by Orban has been met with angry rebuke from other EU and NATO members in recent weeks, including Hungarian leader blocking a 50 billion aid package to Ukraine last month. Orban is still facing immense pressure to cease their obstructionism. Hungary's parliament is currently on winter recess and is not expected to reconvene until February 26th. And likely by then there will be clear answers as to how all this unfolds, or rather, Hungary folding. Good times. More NATO news. NATO admits no direct threat from Russia as UK Army Chief tells citizens to prepare for massive war. On Tuesday, NATO Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg issued a surprising statement which drastically contradicted the anti Moscow hawks in US and UK, who have been claiming that Putin has his eyes on expanding the war beyond Ukraine. Not like it can. Potentially threatening the rest of Europe. Stoltenberg told the press briefing when asked to assess the Russian threat against Western military alliance that we don't see any direct or imminent threat against the NATO ally. The idea of an imperial Russian expansionist war to gobble up territory in Europe has long been a mainstream talking point related to Ukraine conflict. Yeah, talking about the upcoming, well, it's going on now, the major exercise for NATO on Russia's doorstep. That's always going to go good. Yeah, mostly it looks like it's mostly just what I like to call make work stuff going on in NATO as NATO does, because again, I've said it before and I'll say again, NATO's reason for existence died in 1991. And the shambling corpse of like maintaining control and power is lumbered on stuff. And I'm sure more than one person at NATO got a raging hard on when Putin decided to roll into Ukraine and stuff. But it was just like a two pump chump. It's like, oh yeah, this is the great evil we're supposed to funnel billions and billions of dollars into preventing. Yeah, yeah, sure. Whatever you say, buddy. Back to the border. Texas defies lawless Biden invokes right to self-defense from invasion with more razor wire. Texas Governor Gabbett drew a hard line in the stand, putting Biden administration on notice that he's declared the migrant crisis and invasion, invoked Texas constitutional authority to defend and protect itself. According to Abbott, that authority is the supreme law of the land and supersedes any federal statutes to the contrary. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and other Texas personnel are acting on the authority as well as state law to secure Texas border. The situation in Texas has come to a boiling point at Eagle Pass, where the Texas National Guard have taken control of the local park, which illegal immigrants use as a landing zone after crossing the Rio Grande. The state has placed razor wire along miles of the river to block entry in the U.S., which the Supreme Court has just allowed Biden administration to remove, and the legal battle played out in the lower court. We're going to come back to this in a later article. The Texas razor wire is effective, blah, blah, blah. We already covered this. And the conclusion, not the conclusion, but the next part of it's going to come up in a bit. Okay, this is fucked up. FDA's new rule allows for medical research without informed consent. I'm going to repeat that because that's very fucking important. The FDA's new rule allows for medical research without informed consent. That is monumentally vile. In an effort to encourage the discovery of more treatment and diagnostic options in the medical field, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration has finalized the rule to allow certain clinical trials to operate without obtaining informed consent from participants. What the fuck? The hitch? The study cannot pose more than minimal risk to humans and must include appropriate safeguards to protect the rights, safety, and welfare for those involved. I'm sorry, that there's already failed from the get-go if you're not going to have them be informed. You've already failed. The rule was issued in late December 2023 and went into effect January 22nd, 2024. We anticipate this new rule will enable minimal risk research that would not be practicable to conduct otherwise. Dr. Robert M. Califf, serving as Commissioner for Food and Drug for the FDA, wrote in his FDA blog, catching up with Califf. This could include studies comparing the effectiveness of approved products to determine which options work best for certain patients. The FDA initially proposed a rule in November 2018 permitting the Institutional Review Board to waive the requirement for informed consent under certain conditions. The agency received fewer than 50 comments on the proposed rule from academia, institutional review boards, and public advocacy groups, industry, trade organizations, public health organizations, and citizens. Because I'm probably sure they did that very quietly under the table so no one knew that was happening. Mark my words, that's exactly what happened. Not all comments were supportive, with some warning the waiver of consent may be necessary and ethically justifiable for certain types of clinical investigations that are critical for medical advancement, patient care, and safety. Two commenters believe the rule simply goes against the spirit of protecting humans in medicine. I agree. Yeah, okay, here's the main part I want to focus on. A road towards eroded trust. It's already eroded, but let's get there. Much of the pushback against the new rules suggests that the changes would allow IRBs to compromise on standards more and more, adding that the term minimal risk is too vague and could be misinterpreted or abused. The result would be a decreased public trust in research and health care providers. Yeah, the shit is never going to stop. It's not going to get better either. No third parties, including IRBs, should be allowed to make decisions for study subjects as to what constitutes minimal risk, one commentator added. Minimal risk, as defined by the FDA, means the likelihood of experiencing harm or discomfort is not greater for a subject during the study than for them during everyday tasks. In other words, there's minimal risk in nearly every activity, from walking or putting away the dishes to picking the kids up from school. The study's risk cannot exceed the risk one experiences daily. The ruling comes at a time when the FDA can't afford to lose any more public trust. The agency has been attempting to rebuild its reputation after the COVID pandemic, during which many believe it was heavily swayed by political influence. The agency has been called upon by industry leaders to tighten its prescription drug and medical device approval process and to make it more transparent. In his blog post, Dr. Califf said new rules will start. These efforts will promote additional robust clinical research to generate evidence needed to inform clinical decision making and ultimately enhance treatment and diagnostic options for patients. He wrote, "Yeah, let's improve." I just love how, like, speaking speaking on one side of his mouth and speaking on the other side of his mouth. It's like we need to increase transparency, so let's just start removing informed consent. Stay classy, stay classy. FDA, stay classy. Continuing on. War, 25 red states rally around Texas as battle brews with Biden over border. A coalition of red states has rallied around Texas after Governor Greg Abbott invoked the state's constitutional right for self defense due to a migrant crisis, which he deems an invasion, which it is. Joint letter, support on the twatters. And of course, the optics can be worse for the Biden administration, which is now faced with prospect of going to war with Texas during the election year to keep the border open. And Wall Street Silver pointed out next, Texas is authorized to engage in war if being invaded according to Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3 of the Constitution. Though ex-user Blue Apples points out, Abbott cited the dissenting position in Arizona versus the United States, which determined the federal law overrides state law when it comes to regulating those that are unlawful present in the U.S., except when it comes to the state's right to require officers to verify citizenship or alien status of detained migrants. Regardless, Abbott has drawn a line in the sand, and whenever litigation may come out of play in courts is secondary to the fact that this is happening now. Journalist Matt Walsh knows Abbott has Biden over a barrel here. What is Biden going to do? Send the military and forcibly open the border in election year? That's not off the table. Meanwhile, Washington Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell told fellow Republicans in the private meeting at Ukraine on Ukraine at a time and political that time and the political will to pass a bipartisan immigration border security compromise is running out. Punchbowl News note. According to the outlet, McConnell told GOP senators that before border security talks begin, immigration policy united Republicans in Ukraine aid devise them politics, and this have changed. McConnell said solving the crisis of the U.S. Mexico border. That's because former President Donald Trump wants to run his 2024 campaign focusing on immigration, much like his 2020 campaign. funny, funny how things aren't exactly changing and only gotten worse since the instant he left. Funny how that. Okay, this one gave me a chuckle. Maryland Library event rolls back scheme charging white people more. Now, if there was only a name for people who care nothing about race, look at everyone as their race, and talks nothing but race. If there was only a word to describe these kinds of people, it's on the tip of my tongue. An event being held at a public library in Maryland is no longer charging different rates for white men and others after backlash from county officials. It's almost like it's fucking illegal. The event was charging white male vendors $275 or $325 and businesses owned by women or minorities $225 or $250 according to a vendor application reviewed by the Washington Times. The event, MoCom Con 2024, is slated to be held at Germantown Library and Black Rock Center for the Arts. County officials initially defended the decision and promoted the event widely in social media, and then they got caught. The vendor's pricing scheme is a specific push to especially attract the type of vendor so that the attendees who are also focused on trying to reach minority, black, and brown communities that they have vendors as well. Mary Anderson, a spokesperson for the Montgomery County, told the Washington Times many minority vendors and younger startups that the sort of thing and that sort of thing, they generally have a financial position they may benefit if them in reduction in price. The event is being organized by Friends of Liberty Montgomery County, a nonprofit. The vendor pricing reflects our joint commitment to promote inclusivity in library programming and expand the opportunities for groups who have been underrepresented in the industry, Ari Brooks, executive director of the group, said in a statement. But now the county is saying the scheme is not allowed. I wonder why. A disparate pricing on vendors that has occurred between the Friends of the Library Montgomery County Incorporated and BlackRock. There's the rub. BlackRock Center for the Arts is not permitted. Scott Penderson, another county spokesperson, told the Epoch Times via email on January 23rd. The county did not approve nor condone the decision. Full MC corrected the situation as soon as they were made aware of Montgomery County Public Libraries. The vendor application listing the different rates is no longer on the full MC website. The current version lists rates of 125 or 175 depending on whether vendors need access to electricity. There is no mention of race or gender. Mr. Peterson did not respond when asked whether Ms. Anderson was misquoted, and if not, how her comments were not in support of the scheme. County Executive Mark Elrich, a Democrat, was among officials who promoted the event in a press release and social media posts. Larry White, another county spokeswoman, also posted a promotion of the event, including a different vendor rates, according to the screenshot captured by Montgomery County Republican Party. Mr. Elrich also told reporters in the press conference they did not know about the scheme. Bullshit. He got caught. If they're doing it, I can't see how that's not legal. We're pretty clear that we don't have different rates for different races, he said. Federal law states that all persons within jurisdiction of the United States shall have the same right as every state and territory that makes and enforce contracts to sue, be parties, give evidence, and the full and equal benefit of all laws and proceedings for the security of persons and property as enjoyed by white citizens, and shall be subject to like punishment, pains, penalties, taxes, licenses, and instructions of every kind, and to no other. These struggle shits did not respond to inquiry. Mr. Brooks told a local blog that the group was told by Montgomery County Public Libraries they could not charge different rates based on race or gender because it's legal. Our efforts to support MCPL goals for promoting inclusivity inspired by our initial pricing and under updated county advisement, the vendor pricing has been adjusted because they got caught. Yeah, I like this line. What would happen if the situation were reversed? What if the pricing had blacks and minorities paying more? The media would be up in arms and said this time the equal opportunity won. Yep. So these struggle shits got caught. Ugh. FBI seizures from safe deposit boxes violate U.S. Constitution, federal court. I don't know if I covered this yet before, but I've been following this story for a little while. The FBI's seizure of contents from a safe deposit box during a raid on Beverly Hills Vault in 2021 violated the U.S. Constitution, Federal Appeals Court ruled on January 23rd. Agents raided U.S. private vaults, a business that allowed people to rent safe deposit boxes anonymously based on the belief the criminals were using the services. The search warrant stated that agents could only open the boxes to inventory their contents and identify the owners for return of their property. However, agents bought drug sniffing dogs and planned to set aside cash worth more than $5,000 with the intent to seize the money. FBI searched the contents of about 700 safe deposit boxes. When the people who rented the boxes asked the FBI for the belongings back after the raid, the Bureau refused, saying it was going to file a forfeiture or transfer of ownership to the government. The renters of the boxes then sued. U.S. District Judge previously ruled in favor of the government, finding the search was covered by what's known as an inventory exception to the requirements of the warrant in the U.S. Constitution's Fourth Amendment. The exception, though, doesn't apply to a raid on U.S. private vaults. The U.S. Courts of Appeals in the Ninth Circuit ruled. The ruling hinged largely on the exception requires searches to operate on standardized instructions and highlighted how the FBI in the Beverly Hills raid used supplemental customized instructions. That's the rub. Once the government begins adding set of customized instructions to a standardized inventory policy, particularly this type of custom instructions presented in the case, the entirety search stops being conducted pursuant to a standardized policy. U.S. Circuit Judge Millen D. Smith Jr. wrote in the ruling. Blah, 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 mostly lawyers stuff, but at the end of the day, it's pretty much like the FBI tried to wiggle, like they tried to weasel. It's like, hey, in this exception, this one time, or in this instance and stuff, and it's never the one-off thing. It's like if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile. A tale as old as time. I like this line. Ultimately, given the greater privacy interests at stake and the implication of the rights of third parties, he added, I would hold that the inventory search doctrine does not extend to searches of a box contents in a locked vault. Yes. This is why I don't like I don't believe in the concept of security boxes because they're not secure. It's an illusion. Okay, I have a bit of a soapbox on this one. It's still 90 seconds to midnight. Since 1947, the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists have been tracking world events and assessing how close we are to destroying our world with dangerous technologies of our own making. Originally focused on the threat posed by nuclear weapons, the scope has since been broadened. This, feet, mission creep. Mission creep is always a thing. The scope has since been broadened to include effects of climate change first considered in 2007. As statistic as Martin Armstrong noted, the doomsday clock metaphor used to warn public on how close we are to thought to be worst case scenario. In 1947, the clock was started at 7 minutes to midnight, midnight being the point at which all too late and the world being destroyed. This assessment was driven mainly by the prospect the United States and the Soviet Union were heading for a nuclear arms race. By 1953, this has been reduced to just 2 minutes, with the publication proclaiming somewhat dramatically, the hands of the clock of doom have moved again, only a few more swings from the pendulum, and from Moscow to Chicago, atomic explosions will strike midnight for Western civilization. 7 years after, though, the clock turned back to 7 minutes again, and hands were not ticked as far back as 1953 again until 2018. Then the Bulletin for Atomic Scientists wrote, major nuclear actors are on the cusp of a new arms race, one which will be very expensive and increase the likelihood of accidents and misperceptions across the globe. Nuclear weapons are posed to become more rather than less usable because of nations' investments in nuclear arsenals, or lack thereof, really. Since then, however, global situation has apparently become even more dire. And here's the rub. The assessment for 2022 kept the clock the same threatening position that has been since 2020, just 100 seconds to midnight, though now in 2024, the clock ticked even further, just 90 seconds, the same position it found itself at the start of the year. The main reason as follows, and this is where it gets a little funny. Ominous trends continue to point the world towards global catastrophe. The war in Ukraine and the widespread growing reliance on nuclear weapons to increase the risk of nuclear escalation. China, Russia, and the United States are all spending huge sums to expand or modernize nuclear arsenals, adding to the ever-present danger of nuclear war through mistake or miscalculation. Of course, they couldn't help but also claim the climate also played a role in the assessment. This is where I get my tickles. The world in 2023 entered uncharted territory as suffered its hottest year on record, and global greenhouse gas emissions continue to rise. Both global and North Atlantic sea surface temperatures broke records, and Atlantic sea ice reached its lowest daily extent since they have into satellite data, which leaves us wondering what happens if the doomsday clock reaches midnight because of climate something and the world doesn't end. You know it is. You know it fucking is. This is an essay, and I'll just briefly sum up the main points. Cultural replacement. Why immigration crisis is being deliberately engineered. I know this, you know this is all no news, but it's again, I will repeat all of this shit until they hit that on the universe because it is fucking important. There is absolutely no doubt elements of our own government are deliberately encouraging the acceleration of legal immigration across the southern border, and they are actively sabotaging any attempt to stop the madness. There are two questions we need to ask: why are they doing this, and what can be done to stop them? The expulsion of unwanted or destructive groups of people have been an emergency measure used by civilization for thousands of years. The cultures that don't protect their own gates end up being erased or absorbed into a completely different population that may not hold the same values and principles. The majority of nations on the planet today have strict immigration rules, yet America and the European Union are the only reasons attacked for wanting to limit the flow of illegals. Why? The open border propaganda, blah, blah, blah. So, again, the way the powers that be win and their little communist minions win is you create a conflict, you destabilize, you cause the problem, and then you come in with the solution for the problem that you made. This is bullshit artist 101. And it's going over the case of the border states are shipping off the migrants to the quote unquote sanctuary cities, and the sanctuary cities are reaping what they sowed, and it's funny, and but he's going over all the basic points of destabilization, martial law, and how do you enforce martial law? Well, then you have all these immigrants come in, and you guarantee them citizenship by serving in their military to suppress the local American nationalists, and that's how you get the army to do what you want. Because if you have the traditional American army say like, okay, put down the people, it's like, no, there'll be mass defections, and they'll no, that's just not going to happen. And that's why you have the effectively the foreign military come in and subvert and take over. That's how it is, and it comes down to cultural replacement theory. That's basically what it is. And of course, the end goal is just more power, more control, and all this so tiring, so shit. But it's really well written and worth a read. Expenses, investors. Okay, this was a neat little one. C.S. Lewis, That Hideous Strength, matches Orwell's 1984 as prosecutor of the perils of progressivism. Many commentators have pointed out correctly that the current progressive trends are reminiscent of George Orwell's classic novel 1984. The perils include manipulation of English language, rewriting history, and suppression of dissent, and omnipresent administrative central government. In addition to which, there is lightning swift change of party line. For example, behavioral change deemed morally wrong or perceived suddenly becomes a theme for celebration. You're a bigot if you don't change instantly. Orwell wasn't the only 20th century British writer to forecast those trends. Another was C.S. Lewis, particularly in his brilliant dystopia, That Hideous Strength. Lewis is best known for his works in popular Christian theology and for the allegorical fantasies for children called The Chronicles of Narnia. On the other hand, That Hideous Strand is subtitled A Modern Fairy Tale for Grown-Ups and is entirely a fairy tale, but a subtitle's warning is appropriate. This book comes with disturbing content and it certainly isn't for children. Blah blah blah. It's on my to read list. Before I read this article, I knew of it, and it's on my to do list and stuff, and I kind of want railroad that up. So it's part of his sci-fi trilogy, and the other two take place on Mars and Venus, and this one takes place on Earth. And it's yeah. So it plays it kind of plays out like 1984, and it's like how totalitarianism works. And I'm not going to go too much into it because we all know how it ends up. Is up, but I still want to give it a read at some point. And this is like a little heads up if you haven't, like, C.S. Lewis is good folk and good writer and stuff. And I want to add this to the list. Okay, this one made me chuckle. 50 bags of cocaine. 50 bags of cocaine. Cocaine. Seized from Belgian socialist minister's office. Staffer arrested. I'm sure it was just that staffer. I'm sure it was just that one. Belgian authorities seized 50 bags of cocaine during a search last month of the office of Socialist Minister for Education Caroline Desir, local media reported Thursday evening. Nose candy. According to the newspaper, one of Desir's staffers, who is the son of former minister and current Belgian Socialist MP Fadila Lan, was arrested prior to the search of suspicion of drug trafficking. A total of 10,000 euros in cash was seized during the further search of his home. He is understood to have been working as a treasurer for the minister's office. The suspect was remanded in custody at Harran prison while police conducted their initial investigations. In response to the news, which just comes to light, the minister's office confirmed that the man named only as Mr. MV is no longer employed by Desir. In that end, the office complied fully with investigation and provided access to all areas. Excuse me. Where staff members had permission, no other contraband was found by investigators, and the authorities have not wanted to hear from a member of the cabinet since. Oh fuck! Yeah, somebody was having a good time. Was they partying with Biden Jr.? Okay, this is okay. Yeah, so this is a repeat, but it's an extension of extension of the other one. ExxonMobil isn't taking any chances in letting activist shareholders propose resolution to speed up emission reduction plans. ExxonMobil went to federal court in Texas to prevent activists from getting the resolution on the ballot. ExxonMobil argued the resolution does not seek to improve ExxonMobil's economic performance or create shareholder value. I like this line. Two activist investors in December filed a stockholder resolution to vote at the 2024 ExxonMobil annual meeting to encourage management to speed up its carbon emission plans and expand the scope of emissions covered by a reduction plan. It's a non binding resolution, which means it doesn't mean shit. Meaning the company's directors can ignore it, but the directors do not want to merely ignore the resolution. They want to quash it before stockholders even get a chance to vote. The stockholders may own the company, but that doesn't give them a right to say anything the top brass do not want to hear. That gave me a chuckle. Yeah, the numbers and stuff, but I already covered this in the other one. Yeah, it seems to be there seems to be an epidemic of this shit. Activist investor urges British Petroleum to abandon renewables. Blue Ball Capital Partners is calling on BP to renege on its goal to reduce oil and gas production and scale back its ambitions in renewable energy. Bluebell Capital Partners urged the supermajor not to reduce its oil and gas output as it is destroying shareholder value. Asked to comment on the urge from Bluebell Capital Partners, BP told Fortune Times that we have met with most of our major shareholders recently and continue to receive support for our strategy. One activist investor is taking supermajor BP, but instead of what all other activist investors have pursued with oil and gas, giant recent years, Bluebell Capital Partners is calling on the UK-based group to renege on its goal to reduce. So pretty much, these guys are telling BP to do their jobs. It's like, look, it's like this green shit is, you know, you're an oil company. This is wasting money and decreasing our share value. Stop it. So this is like the instance of like this. This is like the one instance of like these shareholder like activists is like going is like, no, do your fucking job, which is kind of like a rare breath of fresh air, to be honest, compared to the other one, which is like, no, double down and just like fucking kill yourselves. It's like, no, you're here to make money. Fuck off. So good on these guys. Good on Bluebell. I keep saying Bluebell. Bluebell Capital Partners. Good on these guys. The end is in sight. Oh. Ohio legislator overrides governor's pro-trans veto. I have to do the math on that one. Ban procedures for minors. Ohio Senate voted on Wednesday to override Republican Governor Mike DeWine's veto of a bill that would ban the gender transition procedures for minors and prohibit male athletes from playing on female sports teams. Yeah, so they're like, these chuckle fucks are kind of doing like the same thing they always done, is to the effect of such a measure, if allowed to become law, would do more harm than good. It's like, oh, they're all gonna kill themselves. It's like, no, in fact, you should kill yourselves. It's like, fuck off. It's like 41% is not enough at this point. But Republican State Representative Gary Click, the bill's primary sponsor, celebrated the Senate vote and stressed that the disagreement between the legislative and executive branches was about policy, not personality. Yeah, let's see. However, groups in support of the ban, such as Alliance of Defending Freedom, said it protects children from harm of reversible procedures. I agree. Blah, 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 blah. These approaches to treating gender dysphoria, which block healthy puberty, alter a person's hormonal balance, or reduces healthy organs and body parts, are dangerous. Yeah, so it's kind of like saying the rare, increasingly becoming rare instance of sanity prevailing, in that like, no, leave the kids alone, fuck off, none of this alphabet soup nonsense. So good on Ohio for once. Okay, that's what gave me a chuckle. Excuse me. Crime pays. Seattle pays 2020 Black Lives Matter rioters 10 million over excessive force claims. Peacefully protest the Capitol before getting tear gassed by Capitol Police and possibly murdered by them. The Biden Department of Justice will hunt you down and lock you up. Participate in the summer of anti-Trump chaos. Cities will pay you because cops were mean while stopping you from smashing windows and setting fires. Other news, cucks gonna cuck. In the last year, Denver agreed to pay 4.7 million to 300 Black Lives Matter rioters arrested in 2020. Philadelphia coughed up 9 million, and New York City is paying 13 million. And now Seattle has agreed to pay 10 million to 50 rioters injured by police during the summer riots, aka the summer of love. This decision was the best financial decision for. This is the thing that gets me. This decision was the best financial decision for the city, considering the risk, cost, and insurance, said Seattle City Attorney Ann Davidson in a press release reported by the Federalist. The case has been a significant drain on the time and resources of the city and would have continued to be so through an estimated 3-month trial that is scheduled to begin in May. So it was easier to pay off than work through the course. Oh my fucking god! You can't make this shit up. The lawsuit was filed by demonstrators in September 2020. Oh, excuse me. In the case, which included over 10,000 videos, more than 1 million documents, and hundreds of interactions between plaintiffs and law enforcement officers. This settlement resolves the majority of remaining claims arising out of the 2020 demonstration period and is a big step towards allowing the city to focus on important work today while moving forward from events 4 years ago, said Davidson. It's like, it's the time for forgiveness, don't you know? Okay, I do like this. The Federalist notes the far left city of Seattle became a hotspot for politically charged riots in 2020 when violent demonstrations erupted after the aftermath of George Floyd's death. According to the Associated Press, demonstrators were hit with crowd control devices the city council had previously banned. In February last year, the city settled a separate lawsuit in federal court related to the summer demonstrations. Seattle agreed to pay more than $3.6 million after a federal judge found officials deleted evidence of government failures to protect businesses during the Capitol Hill organized protest. CHOP is more properly known as Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, Jazz. Fuck. What a time. I remember watching this shit live. It was fucking hilarious. Wherein the far left anarchists annexed the Six City area group declared autonomous with their own border control and ID checks, and Democrat Mayor Jay Durkin compared the autonomous zone to a block party and celebrated the demonstration as Summer of Love. The Utonia Project, however, was far less peaceful block party, and city's mayor made it out to be. More than a dozen businesses and residents, led by investment group Hunters Capital, sued the city over its handling of the 3-week CHOP protest, claiming the city's decision to tolerate and in some cases aid the closure of an 8-block section of the Capitol Hill hurt their businesses, according to Seattle Times, which is what happened. And man, that was wild. That was a wild. 2020 was a wild year. Oh, only the hottest of takes on this channel. Ugh. Sniffles. And speaking of sniffles, emails revealed why CDC didn't issue an alert on COVID vaccines and myocarditis. The nation's top public health agency did not send an alert on COVID-19 vaccines and heart inflammation because officials were concerned that they would cause panic, according to the email obtained by the Epoch Times. Blah, blah, blah. So they knew that the gene therapies caused issues. They knew this. And they were going to issue out an alert, but it would have gone against the message. So it never got sent. And of course, these details are now getting out, and it's like, oh, okay, well, shit actually happens. We were not alerted. You hid this information. What the fuck? The CDC's apparent decision to not immediately issue a formal alert to clinicians warning them about the increased risk of myocarditis and pericarditis in vaccinated individuals is not only inexcusable, it's malpractice. Yes. The CDC should never prioritize its own public perception over public health, and those who made the decision to do so must be held fully accountable. I say they should be hung, but I doubt anything's going to come from this. Yeah, of course, they were in bed with Moderna and Pfizer. Surprise no one. Oh. Yeah. So, you know, government and business in bed together with an agenda to fuck you over. Again, traditional. Again, a classic case of the traditional definition of a conspiracy. Two guys trying to screw over a third. Okay, this one gave me a chuckle. Growing concerns, a little late for that, over links between transgenderism and violence. Mental health issues that manifest in gender confusion combined with potent of cross-sex hormones can be a recipe for violence, some experts have said. And this comes back to the Tranifesto. Going over the numbers, blah, blah, blah. And going over the Tranifesto, Audrey Hale. But the Tranifesto cunt wasn't the only instance of it, and a few points of data doesn't make, but you and I both know that these are meant, as a baseline. Like even before you start involving the drugs, these are mentally unstable individuals. But then you top that off with hormones and drugs and axe wounds and sting trenches and stuff, and chopping off their tits, and it's just like these are fucked up people. Again, only the hottest of takes on this channel. Going over other examples. Yeah, I know. Excuse me. This is like calling water wet. It's like people that are fucked in the head are fucked in the head and are going to cause violence. What a shock. It's also tiring. Okay, this is fucked up. It's like in our continuing series of leave the fucking kids alone, please. Woke Maryland private school questions young boys about gender and sexuality. Reversing the woke takeover of America's education system will require a concerted effort from concerned parents who don't want their children infected by the woke mind virus. The latest example of parents becoming infuriated with diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, is being injected in the education curriculum comes from an elite private school in Baltimore County, Maryland. Project Veritas, God bless, posted on X this week that St. Paul's private school that charges $38,000 or more a year issued a questionnaire to 50th grade boys asking if they were cisgender, transgender, or gender nonconforming, or agender. Oh boy, going over the receipts. Why does the school need to know about the gender or sexuality of young boys? It seems quite unusual. I agree. Meanwhile, now here comes the fun part. Meanwhile, the headmaster of the school threatened to expel two students whose parents complained about wokeism on social media. Here's a reason why parents are not allowed to talk with the press. A pre-existing contract between the school and parents places a gag order on them. Screenshot of contract text via concerned parents of the school. Blah 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 blah. A parent at the school provided us with an internal memo from Patrick Wallace Middle School Dean of Students who told teachers we will not apologize for being woke. As I said, we will not apologize for the work we are doing to make sure that all students are seen and heard in our community. Yeah, and going over a bunch of other school examples of this shit happening. Parents at these woke private schools should adopt a firm stance similar to Bill Ackman's move that ousted Claudine Gay as president of Harvard. This proves ineffective. If this proves ineffective, consider withdrawing from these schools. But then again, many private schools in the area are woke, plus many public schools have imploded. Maybe it's time for homeschooling, or perhaps enough parents band together to start a non-woke private school. Good luck with that. Okay, here's the not really conclusion, but what I was leading up to with all the other border articles. Border Patrol says agents will not remove Texas razor wire barriers. Hey, it's almost the people who work at Border Patrol don't want to fuck. Here's the thing: you apply to work as border patrol. You want to patrol and protect the border, and these guys are. It's funny because like the rank and file people at border patrol are having enough with the higher ups of like. It's like, no, you are actively stopping us from doing our job. You know what? Fuck you. We're going to rebel. In defiance of the Biden administration's wishes, senior figures within Customs and Border Protection have stated that there are no plans to have Border Patrol agents remove razor wire barriers erected along sections of the border by a Texas National Guard. Fox News reports that the high ranking CBP official told the network that the relationship with the Guard is strong. While this issue plays out in the courts, the relationship between Border Patrol and Texas Department of Public Safety and Texas Military Department remains strong. The official said, adding, our focus is and will always be the mission of protecting this country and its people. On the ground, we continue to work alongside these valuable partners in that endeavor. The official continued, adding, the bottom line, Border Patrol has no plans to remove infrastructure, sea wire, placed by Texas along the border. Our posture remains the same. If we need to access an area for emergency response, we will do so. When that happens, we will coordinate with Texas DVS and TMD, the official further declared. The Border Patrol Union also issued a statement outlining the agents will not interfere with Texas National Guard members carrying out lawful operations. Texas National Guard rank and file Border Patrol agents work together and respect each other's jobs. Period. If Texas National Guard members have lawful orders, they have to carry out those orders. The statement notes. Rank and file Border Patrol agents appreciate and respect what Texas has been doing to defend our state in the midst of this catastrophe the Biden administration has leased America. The statement continues, adding, "We want to be perfectly clear. There is no fight between rank and file Border Patrol agents and the Texas National Guard, Governor Abbott, or the Texas DPS. It may make flashy headlines, but it simply isn't true," the statement concluded. The development comes as Texas Governor Greg Abbott told Tucker Carlson the state is prepared for conflict with the federal government. 25 states have expressed support for Texas, with 10 of them, according to Abbott, deploying their own National Guard to Texas for help. One of those states was Oklahoma, with Governor Kevin Stitt saying on Friday that we have the right to defend our country against invasion. The White House has refused to rule out Democrats' suggestions to federalize the Texas National Guard. And to that I say, good luck. The fucking gall. Biden administration will not rule out federalizing Texas National Guard. Now, it almost seems like it seems like they legitimately want a civil war. And not an ironic civil war. We're going to kill you and wipe you off the face of the planet civil war. This shit is going to get wild. God damn. Okay, back to this cunt. Well, first mentioned in the stream, but the ongoing series, as it were. Fannie comes under immense pressure as 20 fucking 2 articles of impeachment filed for malfeasance, oppression, and tyrannical partiality. Woof. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis may find herself out of a job after Georgia lawmaker filed a resolution on Friday to impeach her for various acts of malfeasance, tyrannical partiality, and oppression after allegations emerged that the special prosecutor she hired to go after Donald Trump turned out to be her lover, who she paid almost $700,000 before he dropped thousands of dollars to take her on lavish vacations. Again. Oh, God. Fannie Willis has a laundry list of potential conflicts that make her unworthy and unfit to be district attorney in Fulton County, said State Representative Charlize Bird in a January 26th statement accompanying introduction of H.R. 872 resolution to vote on impeachment charges against Willis. Blah, 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 all the stuff we covered before, just background, yada, yada, yada. Okay, here's a fun bit. Articles of impeachment. Impeachment and resolution accuses Miss Willis of having committed acts. What we covered? Yada, yada, yada. Resolution calls for Miss Willis' indictment, the severest case of gross abuse of discretion, while alleging that the Fulton County District Attorney grossly violated her oath of office in which she swore to be impartial. Mrs. Bird impeachment resolution also accuses Miss Willis of engaging in an inappropriate and unethical relationship with lead prosecutor Nathan Wade, while alleging she profited from the relationship. There are a total of 22 articles of impeachment in the resolution, each alleged violation of Georgia Code 1610-1. 19 of the impeachment charges are allegations that Miss Willis' prosecution of President Trump and the 18 other co-defendants under Georgia's organized crime laws are done for the purpose of advancing her political career and so grossly violates her oath of office. I agree. Blah, 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 allegations. We've all heard these ones before. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Again, I'm going to follow the story to to its conclusion and stuff. And I've always known the conclusion was going to be her disbarment and maybe even imprisonment stuff, because this shit is just like juvenile level, like trying to run a scam. And fuck, is it is this is like, like a Spanish telenovela. It's like fuck, I'm just glued to this. Okay, chickens coming home to roost. DEI priorities interfere with FBI hiring, undercut national security report claims. Get fucked, feds! A recently disclosed report by an alliance of retired and active duty FBI agents and analysis claimed the concerning decline in FBI recruitment standards due to diversity, equity, and inclusion priorities posing a potential threat to national security and safety and military and airplanes and all that shit. We saw this writing on the wall forever ago, and it's finally coming to pass that specifically hire underqualified people, you get underqualified results. What a fucking surprise. These DEI requirements compromise standards in areas such as physical fitness, drug use, financial and personal integrity, mental health, and work experience. Seen the shit in the military. The current director of FBI Special Agent Recruitment, primarily driven by DEI measure, may significantly impede Homeland Security efforts. Duh. FBI should be scattered to the wind, along with CIA, NSA, and all the other three-letter alphabet soup nonsense. Yeah, of course, the current FBI is like, no, things are totally fine. Stop noticing things. Fucking goy. Yada 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 yada. So yeah, it's just like the SCG DEI crap of like, you lower the bar and you get what you get and stuff, and it's just it couldn't happen to a bunch of it couldn't happen to a bunch of nicer people. Is all I can say. Nose stuffy. Mute. Mute name you. You blow nose. And water. Okay, here's a follow up to an earlier one. George Carlin's estate sues over AI generated comedy special on New Frontier and Copyright Wars. So I covered this before in that the estate was like, okay, we don't like this, but now it's gotten to the point of like, okay, we're gonna litigate against this. In what appears to be a groundbreaking clash between the legacy of artistic creation and exponential growth of AI, the state comedy legend George Carlin has launched a legal salvo against the creators of AI generated comedy specials, a special that mimicked late comedian iconic voice and style. And covered it in that it was shit because just to reiterate the previous time we covered this, the it was I found it interesting the results of this particular AI show because like the prompter, like the guy who was making it, had an agenda, a leftist commie woke agenda and stuff. But it was funny that the AI ghost in the machine fought back in certain instances of stuff George would say. Like this guy was trying to push a bunch of woke shit in this little comedy special thing, a bunch of stuff that George would never say and stuff. And the AI would pepper in some stuff that George would say that went against what was being prompted. And I've noticed this very easily and stuff, and I found it utterly hilarious in the contrast of how bad it was failing. Like the guy wanted to make a point, and I saw it for what it was. But getting back to the main thing, the hour-long video showcase series AI generated images while uncannily similar voice, and the comedian delves into familiar territory of religion, politics, even to Carlin's own death. Blah, blah, blah. So the guys behind this are effectively saying it's just a joke, bro. It's like it's not that big of a deal and stuff. But they're going to end up in court. It's going to be. I'm kind of interested to see how it's going to go. This is going to be another one of the stories I'm going to follow as it slowly worms its way through the court system and stuff. But it's interesting if nothing else. Okay. Oh God, I had a good chuckle reading this one. Chicago Democrat demands officials nix sanctuary city status as migrant crisis overwhelms. Let me get my tiny violin. A Chicago government employee and Democrat activist has called on the city officials to drop its sanctuary city status months after suing the city last October after Mayor Brandon Johnson began setting up migrant shelters and now packed warehouses and a field house in Muslin Park, a popular location for youth sports that have been rendered unusable. Cata Trust told Fox News Wednesday that Democrat voters like her are growing increasingly frustrated. There's no money to take care of the migrants, nor is there any money to take care of people that are there. And so we have a mess on our hands, she said, arguing the Windy City residents are upset over the city's prioritization of migrants over low income residents, and no one's willing to speak with her after contacting Democratic elected officials. If you are all not willing to sit down with us, if you're not willing to talk with us, then why should we continue to support you? She said. A lot of us Democrats are jumping ship. Better late than never, but we'll see how that goes. Mayor Brandon Johnson defended himself on Wednesday, saying, I know folks may question my style, but don't question my leadership. Fuck you. Fuck you. Trust says she couldn't understand Johnson's statement. He has to have regrets because people have regrets. We are not happy with what's happening here, she said, adding that she's disappointed with President Biden for not using his executive authority to fix the situation at the southern border. It's by design, so he's not going to fix it. Okay, back to back things that amuse me. University of California ditches plan to hire student illegals, enraging protesters. The University of California has backed off a plan to hire undocumented students on campuses, ignoring the demands of hunger striking protesters. Let me just take back out my little tiny violin. On Thursday, the University of California Governing Board of Regents announced the move, which will affect roughly 4,000 current students who aren't legal residents. Glorious water. Southern California doesn't have. We have concluded the proposed legal pathway is not viable at this time. UC President Michael Drake adding that is in fact carries significant risk in the institution for those who serve. One UCLA student who is illegal told ABC 30, I have fought for my education. I have fought and worked hard to be where I am today. Nothing, absolutely nothing has been handed to me. Bullshit. Except for the opportunity for an education that a legal resident is enjoying. But aside from that, there you go. The student is one of a group of people who have been hunger strike since Tuesday over the issue while waiting for a decision for a board of regents was made up of 26 members. Maybe become a legal resident and try again. Ah. Ooh, savage. And don't stop coming. Don't stop coming. Major donor calls for a Cornell University president to resign for allegedly promoting DEI. A major alumnus donor is pushing Cornell University to oust its president for allegedly promoting diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives that undermine education quality and academic freedom at the Ivy League school. Holy shit, someone with two brain cells to rub together. They still exist. Yada yada yada. Cornell must abandon his misguided commitment to DEI because yielded not excellence but disgrace, he said. Replace the president and provost. Blah blah blah. Should never been let in. Blah blah blah. Yeah, so this is a long and short of it. Excuse me. Yeah. It's what I've always said is that this shit devalues what was once a valued commodity. And, like paying high premiums to go to the good universities, it doesn't matter because they're not good universities. If I was a person hiring, like I wouldn't trust any like quote unquote like Ivy League university degree or person in front of them and stuff. I wouldn't trust anyone just because that's how little it's worth now because they did this to themselves. And I say, you made your bed, lay in it. Anyway, all right. Click the right one. NPR's new CEO under fire for social media postings. We've been saying this for decades at this point. It's only going to get worse as the kids get older and their social media comes up in like for jobs and shit and stuff. This is going to get wild. We're going to have honestly, we're going to come to the day where we haven't okay, we've already had okay, I'm going to correct myself. This has already come to pass where elected officials' titty pictures have gotten out. This has already happened multiple times, but it's only going to get worse. New CEO of National Public Radio has become an instant news over social media postings that she deleted before a recent announcement of her selection. Catherine Mayer, former CEO of Wikipedia, there you go, sought to remove controversial postings on subjects ranging from looters to Trump. Shannon Thaler of the New York Post reassembled Mayer's deleted postings, including the 2018 declaration that Donald Trump is a racist, and a variety of race-based commentary, including a statement that appeared to excuse looting. I mean, sure, looting is counterproductive. It's hard to be mad about protests not prioritizing the private property of a system of oppression founding on treating people's ancestors as private property. Get fucked. She also quoted as saying, white silence is complicity. Yeah, one of those. What is it with self-hating white women? I don't get it. I'll never understand. NPR declared it would allow employees to participate in political protests when editors believe the causes advance freedom of dignity of human beings. This is why like taxpayer anything is always bullshit. And it's just like they're like again with like the elite Ivy League schools and stuff, like the education system, the medical profession, scientists, like journalists, like the whole all these systems, everything, like the accountability and the respect and the trust is dead. Is dead and gone. It's never come back. Laugh or cry. I'm choosing to laugh because this is fucking retarded. I think this is this is just more of the same of previous stuff covered. The CDC covered up vaccine risks, so like like the rogue RNA, the myocarditis pericarditis stuff, like the unsent email from the CDC. Like we already covered this. Looping back to the border thing. This is kind of something I do agree with, though. The spooky blackout of border news. There's an amazing. Well, okay. If you were to just watch me, you would see a preponderance of border news and stuff. But this is talking about like mainstream media and stuff. In that there was an amazing moment last week when Governor of Texas proclaimed that the chief executive of the United States was facilitating the invasion of the United States and stopping the state of Texas from working to prevent it. The governor called Biden a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels, cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. The Supreme Court had given the go ahead for the U.S. government to interfere. So we've covered this in the other one. So like, it's like they put up the wire, the courts say take down the wire, but the border patrol is like, no, we're not going to do it and stuff. And the drama here is epic. Yeah, so it's going over what we've covered before, but here's the main point is that uh you know this and I know this and stuff, and that the mainstream media has its overarching marching orders from the powers that be, and the report, the story, and the things the way they want it to be told, like control the narrative and all that jazz. And I do like this line. You really don't have to be to be of a conspiracy mindset to see what's going on here. It's impossible to prove, but it looks like for all the world, some order came down from somewhere that said, "Don't report this." When the reports started to come in, they were widely distorted and slanted in favor of overriding Texas' right to defend itself. Yes. So again, this is like age old stuff we've repeated ad nauseum of like the they cause the problem and they'll come in with the solution for more control and power and all that shit. Destabilization, the resolution of the communist powers that be goal. And ending on another one that amused me. Off the rails psychologically, the Democratic Party will do anything to avert losing control of government. Next, I do like this. The next big thing, the reserve of trust, patience, and deference among non-zombies in USA is now zero. I agree with the statement. I'm sure you can see exactly where this is going. By all this, I refer to a cortege of disasters orchestrated by Joe Biden and associates. Joe Biden in air quotes because he is the puppet at this point. With the help of the power crazed globalist cabal hauling our country at a gallop now to graveyard empires, is there any question why they're out to wreck Western civilization and speeding up the actions because too many actual citizens are rising up to oppose their degenerate wickedness? Yes. This is why I've been saying that 2024 is going to be fucking wild because they played their hand in 2020 and the whole pandemic response and stuff. They played their hand. Everyone knows their plan. And the pushback has begun and is being pushed back hard by the baseline people. the farmers, the truckers, like the backbone of humanity, the quote unquote proliterate, you know, the supposed people that they're supposed to be the champions of are actually organizing and seizing the means of production. It's fucking hilarious. The invasion policy, blah blah blah. Yeah, and I didn't really cover this in the other ones, but uh, the powers that be are trying to tie in any border patrol, any border issues with the current flavor of the month. That is either like Ukraine or Israel. Stuff is like more money, more power, more control, and all that shit. Okay, yeah. So yeah, I do like this. The lawfare cases aimed at knocking Donald Trump off the game board were assigned to corrupt and stupid prosecutors who are botching up their jobs in perfect sequence. This is why I've been picking on the Fanny one for a while, because this all everything is related. Everything comes full circle. They are already baking the cake for Fannie Willis's farewell office party in Georgia, and Jack Smith is being undermined daily by the emergent truth about the government's role in fomenting the January 6th riot. The, ri- the ridiculous judgment rendered last week by E. Jean Carroll, defamation charade, is certain to be reversed on appeal. Note the assembled tweets below attributed to Merkel's ex account and draw your own conclusions about her characters and her sexual proclivities. By the way, Judge Lewis Kaplan ruled them inadmissible as evidence for Mr. Trump's defense. Yeah. Yeah, that's fucking wild. But okay, so here's the point. Now, where the next national emergency or some kind of martial law is concerned, the catch is that at least half of America will refuse to comply with the diktats coming out of Blob Central. This is the rub. This is the main rub. They've had enough trips laid on them. The government has been flirting dangerously with the loss of legitimacy as a disastrous Joe Biden term grinds on, but this would really ice it. Whatever other tragic consequences follow, it will be the end of our constitutional republic, and history will install Joe Biden in the halls of infamy as the man who killed it. November is going to be wild. People say the 2016 election and 2020 elections were wild. 2024 is going to be hot. Mark my words on this. And that's that. 2 hours and a half. For a little over a week's worth of news articles. I don't know how I feel about this. A little long for my talking. A little tired. But I do like a little later time slot because make myself tired and go to bed and have a good night's sleep. Mm, I guess that's about it. So up until now, I've done Monday, Wednesday, Friday, but I'm gonna try for an experiment along with the time slot change. The 6th. I'm also going to do Monday, Thursday. So it's going to be Monday, Thursday. So give a couple of days for the news to pile up, and have like a bigger one on Thursday as opposed to like small one, Wednesday and Friday. So like Monday and Tuesday, Monday and Thursday. So see how the experiment rolls out and see how much I like it. So no one piped up in chat. Don't know if I've been talking to myself this entire time, or if anyone is just late and watching someone else and we'll catch the file later. Either way, thanks for coming. Take it easy and catch you later.